Please, Eddie. Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. Now this time, I'm going to go back and take a look at a classic. And we are going to look at the Marvel graphic novel official comics adaptation of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the 1988 Disney / Amblin Entertainment film. It's a classic. And this adaptation was done by, hope I got this right, Dan Jippes or Jippes and Don Ferguson, with the art by Dan Spiegle and Dan Jippes or Jippes or whatever the heck the name is. Of course, it is adapted from the 1988 Walt Disney Amblin Entertainment film based on the Gary Wolfe novel Who Censored Roger Rabbit. And the film was a marvelous amalgam of live action and cell animation, and successful enough to spawn imitation films such as Cool World and Space Jam, but none were as successful either technically or critically. And this was the winner of 4 Academy Awards. And the main cast is Bob Hoskins as Eddie, Charles Fleischer as Roger, does the voice of Roger anyway, Christopher Lloyd as the judge. Yeah, Christopher Lloyd, the Doc from Back to the Future. He was also Krug, the Klingon commander from Search for Spock. That's quite a difference. And he was also one of the stars of the longtime popular TV series Taxi, as well as a host of other things he's been. And the sultry, husky, sensuous voice of Jessica Rabbit was provided by the then salty, sexual, and and luscious Kathleen Turner, with Joanna Cassidy as Dolores, who was a very lovely waitress lady. And as I said, it was based on the novel Who Censored Roger Rabbit by Gary Wolfe from, it was 82, 83, maybe it might have been as far back as 1980. I can't remember. I have a copy, but I don't know where it is, or I'd get and show it to you. And it is considerably different from the movie. For one thing, see, the movie is, of course, being a movie, all the tunes were for animated cartoons, whereas in the book, the tunes were from newspaper comic strips. It even had a cameo of Hagar the Horrible in the book, and it is a detective murder mystery. Both versions are that, and it was here. It's told in first person by Eddie Valiant, as is the novelization of the book by Martin Noble, and this has some bunch of stills in it. I'll just find some of the color stills from the film in here. Now the comic adaptation here. One thing is in the original novel, it was a contemporary murder mystery. That is, it as took place in the time it was written. And here they set it back in the 40s, 1940s, either during or shortly after the war. I think it was after the war, just after the war. And of course, here's my DVD of the movie. A big fan. I haven't watched it in ages. I'm going to have to watch it here in the near future. And I wish I knew off the top of my head. I'm not going to go hunting for it where the original novel was. And here the title is Who Framed Roger Rabbit? But the original title is Who Censored Roger Rabbit? As I said, it's a murder mystery, and Roger Rabbit was the murder victim. And here they think he was framed for the murder of another character. And I won't go into the details of how Roger is also still, even though he is dead, he is involved in the investigation of the mystery, of the murder mystery of himself. I won't go into that. It's too complex. As I said, the primary art is done by Dan Spiegle, who I've talked about many, many times before. A great artist who has done so much stuff. Worked at Gold Key for literally for decades. Did some comic strips and stuff. A lot of westerns in the 50s. It's Gold Key with Korok, son of Tarzan. Almost anything that required a realistic look. He did the entire run of Space Family Robinson Lost in Space after the demise of Gold Key. He worked at DC and a little at Marvel, I think. Well, here, obviously, some at Marvel. He did Black Hawk for a time, and then he was at what do you call it? I think it was First Comics, and I cannot remember the name of the title he worked on there with Mark Evanier for a few years, and then he left that to do Roger Rabbit. And it's a graphic novel. And it is. Oh, and I wanted to say that for the movie, of course, there are all kinds of cameos of major animated cartoon characters for both, from various studios, primarily Disney characters and Warner Brothers characters. Now all that took a lot of finagling with for rights to use them in these cameos. Now none of those cameos are in this graphic novel, because I would have taken just as much finagling. They don't even have the Disney cameos in here. Well, they did manage to sneak in actually 2 cameos. I'll show you. Okay, start off. Of course, just like in the movie, they showing and filming the cartoon. Of course, the events here are a little different than what happened, than what we saw there. But bam, and still Roger keeps blowing his lines. He's supposed to see stars, and he keeps seeing little birdies, yada yada. And then we're introduced to Eddie, who is a bit of a lush right now. He uses his gun shoulder holster to hold his whiskey flask, and he's there. Here is one of the cameos that they managed to kind of squeak in, which is mentioning Dumbo. I got him on loan from Disney. You don't see Dumbo, you just see his shadow. And he's seen R.K. Maroon trying to investigate, because Roger is having problems because he is so concerned about his wife, Jessica Rabbit. Thinks she's messing around. Eddie's hired to take pictures of her playing patty cake with somebody. And we get the it's all the stuff from the movie. You've probably seen it and are familiar with the story. That he goes to the. Here's where his friend at the terminal bar for the red car trolley line sees his semi-girlfriend Dolores, and gets some jibes from some of the guys who frequent their barflies. Now, Jessica is performing that night. See, of course, at this part, this is where we saw Donald Duck and Daffy Duck going head-to-head, playing music and acting goofy. Well, of course, we don't have that. He meets Marvin, the gag king who sells cartoon gags, has disappearing ink, yada, yada, yada. That plays part in the plot. Then we see Jessica and her performance. Of course, you just cannot do a lot of the visuals, the sight gags that are in the movie just do not translate well to the printed page, unfortunately. But they did the best they could. He takes pictures, then is revealed Roger is not distraught because she is literally playing patty cake with Marvin, of course. And Marvin owns Toontown, the town where all the Toons live. Woo. And he needs a shot. Takes a shot of whiskey, and whoo, he is off and crashes through the Venetian blinds. Eddie goes back to his own office. Now this is where we get the second sneaked in cameo, because right here is, you can see that, is a little Betty Boop doll on Eddie's desk. Now, Betty Boop made a cameo by being a waitress in that bar, the speakeasy that Jessica was performing. And then the next day, he's called by the cops and stuff. Turns out there's a murder, and Jessica slaps Eddie because she has found out about the pictures. And it was Marvin was murdered, and in Toon fashion, had a safe dropped on his head. Is this the same way Eddie's own brother Teddy had been murdered a year before by a Toon, except he had dropped a piano on his head. Here's a little bit of yellow paint on the rope. That must be. They're thinking Roger Rabbit did it. And here we see all kinds of Toons and stuff. And he goes back to his office, and it turns out Roger, of course, is hiding out in his office because he knows he's the prime suspect. But he didn't do it. And he goes, "Help me, Eddie. Please, Eddie." I can't do it very well. I used to do pretty good. And then the Weasels, who work for the judge, the judge who is bound and determined to get and execute Roger Rabbit, and but he hides Roger, and the Weasels don't find him. They're goofy, and he finds a clue in the photograph. He gets his own photograph and sees it, because part of it revolves around Toontown. Marvin owns Toontown, and he's got his. But there's no will, and it's up for grabs. Toontown is up for grabs. But he sees a will in his pocket from the picture that he took. And so he goes to Dolores with hiding to hide Roger. Then he goes and checks out Jessica's dressing room. Yada yada yada, stuff going on. Weasels grab Eddie, take him to Toontown. And they pop a Toon pig head on his head. He goes home, cleans up. There's Jessica she's really coming on to him too. In Eddie's office. She wants him to help Roger. Help clear Roger. Of course, Dolores sees the tail end of that, and she's all on the jealous side. So they go back to the bar where the Toon is hiding out, and he is instead of hiding, he is performing. The judge gets there. They catch Roger and Eddie, take him out there. They're going to stick him in dip, which is a blend of turpentine and acetate and stuff, which will dissolve the inks. And boy, I'm taking a lot longer. And anyway, they get away because by getting Roger to drink some of the booze, he spills the dip, and they get away in the car. Then they get away in the taxi, a Toon taxi. Race, and he's putting things together. Then R.K. Maroon is shot. They think he's killed, and he thinks it's Jessica. Takes off after Jessica, goes to Toontown. He has difficulty mustering his courage to go into Toontown, looking for the dame, and she winds up saving his butt from the weasels. All kinds of gags. Roger, who is stuck in the trunk of the car, gets out, and they're captured, and they're in the warehouse. Roger sneaks in, but he gets captured, and they're about to dip the cartoons in the dip. Shows that they're going to eliminate Toontown with this gizmo who sprays the dip, and all of Toontown will be destroyed. And then we see, he manages to outwit the weasels and the judge. The judge is revealed as a Toon, and not just any Toon, but the red-eyed, squeaky-voiced Toon that killed his brother. And the dip is released. Roger and company are safe, but all of the Toon weasels and the judge are destroyed by the dip. It is revealed that the yellow paint on that rope is the same as the yellow paint for the of the hand, of the glove of the judge. The judge killed Marvin to try to get his hands on Toontown. Toontown is saved because the will is found, and Roger is cleared, and he is back with Jessica, gives him a kiss, and all is well. Boom, boom. None of the nifty stuff. It was a marvelous movie. It is fun to read, but it's just not as good as the movie because of all the cameos that appear in the movie. You name it. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. I mean, who hasn't seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit by now? Probably my sister. Or read the original novel if you can, as well as this. If you can get a hold of it, it's getting pretty rare anymore. So, thank you for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. Do you like Roger Rabbit? This is a marvel of the technology that they had at the time, and I don't think it could even be made like that today. So, thank you for joining me. Like, share, subscribe. Comment on Roger Rabbit, the Toons, Jessica. Whoa, what do you think of Jessica? She's still very popular for cosplay, etc. And remember, comics are art.